Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. We was hoping for some Hogwarts Legacy content at the Game Awards and unfortunately we didn't get it. But we didn't have to wait long for some more content because we've got our first fantastic piece of free, the Secrets of Dumbledore trailer. And I'm here to do exactly what I did for the Hogwarts Legacy trailer and go through it frame by frame and break down every single secret and Easter egg that I can find in the trailer. Now I'm not going to delay it any further, we are going to jump straight into the breakdown. So the trailer opens as all Wizarding World trailers should, on a wide shot of Hogwarts. You can see the Quidditch pitch up on the left, the Owlery towards the back, and also the main school towards the right of the photo. In a blink and you'll miss it moment, you can see the snitch coming towards the camera, but if you look to the far left of the screen, there is actually a Quidditch player wearing Gryffindor robes chasing this snitch at the time. We do get a glimpse of him later on in the trailer. Now this snitch might be very important to the wider story as a whole, as in the teaser trailer that we got a few days ago, Dumbledore can be seen catching a snitch. We know that in the past, or in the future in relevance to this story, he hides items in a snitch. It is potential that he's done the same here, and has hidden something very important to help defeat Grindelwald within this snitch. So the opening line of the trailer, spoken by Dumbledore as we see the older and younger versions of himself, is, if you listen closely enough, the past whispers to you. Now this then cuts to a scene with Newt and Theseus going to the Hogshead and approaching Aberforth looking for Dumbledore. This line to me could hint towards a past where Aberforth has previously had a duel with both Dumbledore and Grindelwald, which resulted in the death of Ariana. Just mentioning this scene, you see a nice glimpse of Hogsmeade in the snow, which would suggest most of this film takes place in winter, so lots of snowy scenes throughout the trailer. The next scene of the trailer is Dumbledore walking down a street in what looks like New York, because I believe that is the Brooklyn Bridge in the background. We have no indication at this time as to why he is currently in New York. However, he could potentially be there to collect Jacob, or potentially to collect some of the helpers. There is a character within this trailer that actually does work at Ilvermorny School, so potentially he could be here to collect her. Dumbledore then continues his speech as he's walking down New York and cuts across a few other scenes. And in this speech he says, "The world as we know it is coming undone. Grindelwald is pulling it apart with hate." Now, as he says that the world is falling apart, I don't think he is just referring to the Wizarding World, because around the time this movie is set is around the time that World War II is actually starting to come into play. In the second movie, we obviously saw Grindelwald's speech where he showed a projection of what is to come from World War II, and this is what Grindelwald is going to be using to start a war between wizards and muggles. Now during this scene, one of the shots we get is of a rally in an unknown location. On the left you can see one party in red which has got some Chinese writing on it. This is potentially going to be the party for the Chinese candidate for the supreme head of the International Confederation of Wizards, which is being decided at the time of this film. On the right you can also see the Brazilian candidate's poster. We have actually had confirmation of his character's name. It is Vicencia Santos. She is going to be also trying to get the post of the Supreme Head of the International Confederation of Wizards. The next thing we see is our first look at Mads Mikkelsen as Grindelwald, and I think he looks great. In this scene he is with William Nadilam's character Yusuf Kama from the second movie. It looks like Grindelwald is removing Yusuf's memory. We do not know whether this is a memory that he's found out during this movie, or maybe a memory that Grindelwald had planted in it previously. We next get a few shots of Newt and the adorable Pickett on a raft which is sailing across some sort of jungle river. When they land, he gets out and there is bamboo shoots all around him. There's a couple of locations in the world this could potentially be. We know the film potentially takes place in Asia and also in Brazil. I'm swinging more towards Brazil, and there's a reason for that later on in the trailer, which I will tell you about when it comes to it. But we do not know where this location is at this time, but it's interesting to see him doing some sort of stealth mission, probably on behalf of Dumbledore. When he gets on land, you hear an ominous sounding creature in the distance, and Pickett seems to freak out. Also during this sequence we get another clip of Dumbledore speaking. It looks though he's speaking to Theseus, as you can see Newt in the background, and he says, "If we are to defeat him, you will have to trust me." Now he's likely talking about Grindelwald, but there is a potential that he could be talking about Credence as well. The next few shots of the trailer look like it takes place in a German city. I would probably suggest Berlin as the capital. And this entrance here looks like it could potentially be to the Deutsche Zauberministerium, or the German Ministry of Magic. If you see here on the wall, there seems to be some sort of eagle motif before they walk through it. This then cuts to Newt on his own. I don't think this scene follows from the last one. Newt now seems to be on top of some sort of mounting top temple where another rally is taking place. Another place this film is rumoured to take place is Bhutan, which is on the southern end of the eastern Himalayas. On Wikipedia, it is one of the most rugged mountain terrains in the world. This potentially could be a location in Bhutan, but we will have to wait to find out. I have seen people talking that potentially this location could be the Brazilian wizarding school of Castelo Bruxo. However, looking at the photo that we have received of this school, it looks like this is more on top of a Mayan type temple, whereas this location is on top of a mountain. So I believe actually this is going to be a location in Bhutan, as we know that we do explore this location in this movie. Theseus then starts sharing his doubts about the team that is supposed to be able to destroy Grindelwald. He names off each of the characters and we get to see individual shots of them. He starts off with Newt. We then see Bunty, his assistant from the second movie. I'm glad she's got a bigger role in this. He also mentions Yusuf Kama, who we have seen previously in the trailer. We don't know whether he's already had his memory erased at this time. We then get our first glimpse at Jessica Williams' character, who is Eulalie, or Lally Hicks. She is a professor at Ilvermorny School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. At this time, not much more is known for her. However, this could be the reason why Dumbledore was seen in America at the beginning of the trailer. He then finishes his speech by mentioning the fact the team is topped with a Muggle, who is, of course, the return of Dan Fogler as Jacob Wachowski. Jacob then points to himself as if to say, "Who, me?" During Theseus' speech, we also get a couple of glimpses of other locations. One of these is Nurmengard Castle, and there seems to be a large group of people entering through the main gates at the front. It's unknown at this time who these people are, but I would imagine these are going to be Grindelwald followers. We also see a few more shots of Vicencia Santos's parade going through some sort of village. At the end of his speech, Newt says that he has been told to give something to Jacob and produces a wand from his inner pocket.
Dumbledore asked that I give you something. Are you kidding me right now?
I love Pickett's little ta-da here as the wand is produced. Now, why does Jacob need a wand? From my opinion, he's very clearly a Muggle from the first two movies. His main storyline was his love connection with Queenie and the fact that they weren't allowed to be together because he was a Muggle and she was a witch. I do not believe that Dumbledore would risk giving Jacob his own wand for fear of hurting himself. I think there's going to be a deeper plot story behind this wand. I've got a couple of theories of what it could be. Now, my first theory is it's not a wand at all. It is some sort of protective charm to protect Jacob, or some sort of magical artifact that they are going to need later on in the story. Now, my second theory is they've just given him a wand so that he will blend in amongst the wizards and witches. They are, of course, going to some severely magical locations if they are going to where the election of the supreme head of the International Confederation of Wizards is going to be. My third theory is very far-fetched, however, it is a possibility, and that is the fact that Dumbledore might be aware of the very thestral that was used to create the Elder Wand. If this is the case, then potentially he is able to get that thestral to provide him with another hair to make the core of a wand. If that is the case, then it means that Dumbledore has provided the team with a weapon they can use against Grindelwald. If they take this weapon into a fight with him, then that will not be a normal fight, as the same thing that happened between Harry and Voldemort's wand will happen again, and that is Priore Incantatem. This could mean that it would allow them to have an upper hand against Grindelwald, who is clearly the more superior wizard. To support this very outside theory, on the teaser trailer that we received a few days ago, Newt can be seen running through the forests of what I believe to be Brazil. In this scene, he looks to be carrying some small horse-like creature, which looks very skeletal in form. Potentially, this could be a baby Thestral. This speech by Theseus is all taking place on a train. Initially, when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be the Hogwarts Express. However, it appears to be some other train in a different location. I would suggest somewhere in Central Europe around the Germany location. I tried to search for any hints that this train was magical, however I could not see anything obvious to suggest this. Behind Newt there seems to be some sort of golden plaque with the train itself on it. We then return to the shot of the Seeker chasing the snitch around Hogwarts Castle, and in another blink and you miss it moment, there is somebody walking across the courtyard at the bottom. I believe potentially this is going to be Newt, Theseus, Jacob, and also Eulalie Hicks, who we see walking down the corridor in the next scene. They are going to meet Dumbledore at Hogwarts, and I think they are going to be forming a plan to take the fight to Grindelwald. In the next scene, they are all stood with Dumbledore in the Great Hall. It looks like he is creating some sort of mountainous area in front of them. I believe this is going to be the area where Numengard is, and this is how they're going to hatch a plan of how to attack the castle. We then hear Aberforth mockingly say to Dumbledore that he's off to save the world. You can definitely hear some of the disdain in his voice from their previous childhood issues. There also appears to be something written on the mirror, but I've tried to enhance this as much as possible, and I cannot seem to see what it says. I don't know if this is important. Maybe Dumbledore has left a message to him that he won't see until after Dumbledore leaves the building. We then catch another glimpse of the rallies with a firework going off before cutting to Credence on a balcony at Numengard. There is a phoenix flying down towards him. One thing to note of this phoenix is it seems to be a flame as it's flying. This is something we've never seen Fawkes do in any of the original adaptations on film or on the books. And this fact to me increases my belief that this phoenix could be an illusion created by Grindelwald to convince Credence that he is actually Aurelius Dumbledore when he's not. The next spoken line that we get in this trailer is Dumbledore saying, "Things are not what they appear." This is as he is holding up the blood pact from the second film. This potentially indicates that the blood pact is initially not what we think it is, or there could be some loophole around the blood pact that they will have to find out. Eventually we do know that Dumbledore does have a fantastical fight against Grindelwald, so they must somehow get around this pact. Hopefully in this film we will see how they do that. I also think that this scene might take place in the Hogshead pub, because if you look behind Dumbledore, it looks to be the same photo that we see of Ariana in the Harry Potter series. There's a short clip of Queenie embracing Jacob. We do not know when this is going to be set, because they are clearly now on very different sides of the wall. There is potential this could be a flashback. We then have a scene with Newt and Theseus in a dark cave in some unknown location. They are surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of creatures. This time is not entirely sure what these creatures are, however, by the way they walk, it would suggest they are crabs. The only creatures that we know that are crabs in the wizarding world are fire crabs, however they are described to look a bit more like turtles. When I first read about fire crabs, this is exactly what I pictured them to look like, so potentially they've just gone for a slight adaptation. This scene is typical Newt and is fantastic. I love seeing scenes like this with Newt where he has to do really stupid things, but they make complete and utter sense to him thinking through the mind of the creatures. He uses this strange crab walk technique to get around the cave, and they end up in front of a hole. Inside the hole there is some sort of giant creature, and it looks to have potentially 3 stingers. None of the other smaller fire crab creatures seem to have 3 stingers, so it's unknown at this time what this creature is. One of the only other creatures that we know within the Fantastic Beasts book to have a stinger is a manticore. However, this is only described as having 1. It's also described as having the body of a lion. It is worth noting just before the creature strikes with its tail, there is some sort of roar that does sound very lion-esque. However, if we do look at a scene from the teaser trailer that we received a few days ago, it does show a wider shot of this creature. You do not see it in full detail, but it does not appear to have any lion-type features. I would very much love this to be a manticore for one specific reason, because if this does turn out to be a modified version of a fire crab and a modified version of a manticore, these are the 2 creatures that Hagrid supposedly bred to create the blast-ended Scroots. We then have a scene with Theseus and Professor Hicks in some sort of a wizarding alleyway. We can tell it is a wizarding alleyway as there appears to be some sort of crystal ball stand here. There is also some diricors on the floor. These are described in the Fantastic Beasts book as to be what muggles refer to as dodos. However, when they feel like they are in danger, they can teleport away, as seen here. I'd imagine the people they're fighting are going to be some of Grindelwald's followers. However, at this time we get no distinct features to confirm this. In this scene they're both holding briefcases, and it's quite hard to tell if either of these are Newt's case. We then see Jacob walking through a room. This room has furniture and plates and cutlery flying all around it, and some sort of tornado seeming to appear around him. I think this is going to be some sort of misdirection to make it look like he is casting magic. However, I believe that potentially there is either going to be Queenie or potentially Grindelwald himself there at this time casting magic. We then see a clip of some of what I believe to be Grindelwald's followers cutting through a shield charm or a protection charm. From analysing and zooming in on this scene, it looks like there is something lead on the floor. Whether this is a person or a creature is very difficult to tell. Also, behind the middle follower of Grindelwald, there appears to be somebody behind the protective charm who is casting it. This potentially is going to be Newt, as if you look at the surrounding locations, it looks very similar to the river that we see him in and to a location that we see him in later on in the trailer. Potentially the character that we see cutting through this protective charm is Vinda Rosier, who is Grindelwald's loyal servant. I believe this is her seen in the teaser trailer that we had a few days ago. She looks to be casting some sort of spell. The green tint to it makes me think this is going to be the killing curse Advada Kedavra. We then get a sequence which starts with the voiceover from Grindelwald, and he says that our war with the Muggles begins today. This seems to be in the location I believe to be in Bhutan. He is at the top of the tower and we see Newt sprinting towards him. Then in what appears to be the same location we see Yusuf seeming to fight a few people by breaking the floor. The next scene with Grindelwald in some sort of pool is quite intriguing. I'm wondering if this is going to be how they're going to explain his change of appearance. Potentially he enters this pool and makes himself into something new. This would then potentially be the reason why Credence is being attacked in this scene. He could potentially be questioning as to who this person is and whether he is actually Grindelwald, and then Grindelwald shows him with a display of pure power who he actually is. Now I'm going to mention the prophecy from the last film twice in this trailer, and this is going to be the first time. The line, "Return Great Avenger with wings from the water," could potentially link to Grindelwald in this scene if this is how he has re-envisioned himself as the Mads Mikkelsen version of Grindelwald. We then get a long shot of Credence running down the street, destroying everything in his wake, heading towards Dumbledore with what is the intention of battling him. Dumbledore deflects some of the debris away from himself. Credence then tackles him. As this happened, Dumbledore looks around before disapparating from the location. I believe that Dumbledore would potentially disapparate from a location as there is a potential for lots of people to get hurt. They do appear to be in a large city. Either that, or it is the fact that he does not want to hurt Credence, so he does not engage fully in battle. The next scene is another bit of fan service, which seems to go against the established canon of the books. We see the recognisable doors of the Room of Requirements opening, and Newt even goes as far to say as it's the room that they require. In the books it was established that Dumbledore didn't know about the room. He had only passed it once or twice during his time at Hogwarts, once when it appeared as a toilet to him when he needed to go. However, in this scene, it would appear that Dumbledore knows exactly how to work the room, as he has set up this teleportation device inside it. The cylindrical object inside the Room of Requirements appears to have some sort of depiction of a dog or cat-like animal, which is unknown at this time. Also, at the top and the bottom of each of these sections, there seems to be some sort of writing. I've googled this and it appears to be very similar to Tibetan writing, which is actually the main language of Bhutan. So this potentially could be the way that they teleport themselves from Hogwarts to the Bhutan temple location seen earlier in the trailer. Of noting as well, it appears that Dumbledore reaches out his hand to take Jacob with him. This to me again more signifies the fact that Jacob is not a wizard, as he has to take the hand of Dumbledore, who is a magical person, to be able to use this device. In the next shot, we see Newt and his briefcase being hauled up from a river by some sort of dragon-like creature. It's unknown at this time what this creature was. However, if this is set in Brazil and potentially in the Amazon rainforest area, then potentially it could be the Peruvian viper tooth. However, it is described as being copper in colour, so it is likely that this is not the correct creature, and it is an unknown creature at this time. I do have one small thread of evidence to suggest that this could be a dragon, and that is from the teaser trailer received a few days ago, and that shows Newt running through the forest with what I believe to be a Thestroid in his arms. As he's running through the forest, giant fireballs seem to be lighting up the area around him and whizzing past his head. Potentially this could be from the dragon. Again, just quickly, I'd like to bring back to the prophecy from the last one where it mentions "Return Great Avenger with wings from the water." This potentially could have come from the river below, so it might link to the prophecy from the last film. Also, potentially this creature could be the thing on the floor that Newt is protecting with the shield charm in this shot here. Pickett is then seen running with Newt's wand through some sort of forest. However, this does not appear to be the bamboo forest that we see them in previously. We then see another fight between Credence and Dumbledore, and this time it looks like Dumbledore is prepared to fight back. He looks angry in this scene, so potentially Credence has just done something or said something to spark that anger. Maybe he has brought up the death of Ariana. The main part of the trailer ends with the team and Dumbledore stood in front of the sculpture of the mountains that Dumbledore has created. Newt obviously comes up with a bright suggestion and gets some points for Hufflepuff. I love this dynamic that Dumbledore still sees himself as the teacher and Newt as the student in this scene. We then see the title card, which is framed by a glowing shape of a phoenix. We then see a scene in the Great Hall with Jacob sat amongst some students of Hogwarts. One of them asks him to have a look at his wand. He says that you can't see the wand because it's incredibly dangerous. I think this is potentially foreshadowing to the fact that this isn't a normal wand. I believe this is some sort of more powerful weapon, and it has been entrusted with Jacob with the intention of being used to help defeat Grindelwald. This is played off as a joke in the trailer because we all know that Jacob is actually a muggle and it is likely not to be a wand. Just for noting as well, the students don't seem to be sat via their house tables. There is a Hufflepuff sat amongst these two Gryffindor students. Finally, we get a confirmed month of release, and that is April 2022. So there you have it. That was my full trailer breakdown of Fantastic Beasts 3. Let me know exactly what you thought of the trailer breakdown and if I missed anything out in the comments below. Thank you so much to everyone who has stuck around on the channel. I know I've not been putting out regular content recently, but I do hope to be getting back to that very soon. Hopefully also soon we will have another trailer for Hogwarts Legacy that I will be able to break down for you. And also we will have the game released sometime next year, so there will be regular content based around that. Thank you so much for checking out this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, mischief managed.